going to go ahead and get started. Thank you everyone for coming to this webinar on cover crops in the furrows of strawberries. I'm very glad that you're interested in this topic and just want to give the Spanish speakers a chance to connect via Spanish. Erin, can you provide some guidance about how to do that?
Hola, muy buenos días. En un momentito voy a iniciar el sistema de interpretación. Van a ver un botón que aparece junto a sus iconos. Es un mundito. Le dan clic y eligen español y van a poder escuchar todo en español. Lo voy a iniciar en este momento.
So my name is Pam Crone and I'm the Agriculture Water Quality Coordinator for the California Marine Sanctuary Foundation. And my job at the Sanctuary Foundation is to help agriculture and the Marine Sanctuary work in harmony side by side, which is how they are on the coast here of California, so that both agricultural flourishes and also that the marine ecosystem health flourishes as well. The Healthy Soils Program is a great example of the type of work that helps both, helps the sanctuary and helps agriculture. And one of the practices in that program is cover crops, and cover crops improve soil health, aid in weed control, support beneficial insects, and can be a tool for growers to use in their fertilization program. Cover crops help the marine sanctuary by reducing runoff, increasing infiltration, preventing soil erosion that's transported to streams and the ocean. Thanks for joining us today. I really appreciate your interest in this topic. So this topic is part of the CDFA. It's actually, this webinar is partially funded by the CDFA Healthy Soils Program, which is through the California Climate Investments Cap and Trade dollars. And here's a list of some of the practices that are supported through the Healthy Soils Program. A lot of really wonderful practices that both improve the agronomics on farms and also improve, have many environmental benefits. There's going to be an announcement for funding through the CDFA Healthy Soils Program coming out in October. And there's two kinds of grants. The program offers demonstration grants, which funds practices, research, and education, and just incentives program, which mainly funds incorporating these practices onto farms. Today's agenda is shown on the screen now. We're first going to hear from Eric Brennan about how to manage cover crops in furrows. Then we're going to have a couple of growers who have actually used this technique, and we'll learn from their experience. And then we'll have some funding sources from Laura Murphy, and then a chance for question and answers. Spanish interpretations available on the channel. If you have any questions, please put your questions in the chat. We'll address them at the end of the webinar. And if we go over time, you're welcome to leave the webinar at the 12 noon time, or you can hang on and we'll try to answer as many questions as we can. Dr. Brennan will begin his presentation with a video that's available in both English and Spanish. There are links in the chat to these videos, as well as shown below. At the end of the webinar, we'll send you links to an evaluation as well as some information sources. So that's it for now. I'd like to introduce Eric Brennan, who will be our first speaker. Eric's a researcher, horticulturalist, and lead scientist in the Organic Production and Climate Smart Farming Research at the USDA Agricultural Research Service Center in Salinas. where he's worked since 2001. His current research is on organic vegetable and strawberry production and is focused on cover crops, weed and soil fertility management, and biological control. So with that, I will go ahead and let Eric take over.
Okay, let me quickly share my screen. Good morning, everybody. Just want to get to the right screen here. Hit share. All right. So it's always enjoyable to be able to give a presentation to growers and other people that are working in this field. I wish we could all be together, but we'll use Zoom for today. So my presentation today is going to be a little different than maybe what you've seen in the past. What I want you to do is I've prepared two videos, or I've prepared a video in both English and Spanish. The Spanish voiceover was done by Jerry Spinelli, who's a farm advisor in Southern California, and we just finished that video this morning. So what I want you to do is take 10 minutes, go to the chat, and I'm going to show you. So if you go to the chat, I think you can see on my screen. Well, maybe you can't see it, but in the chat, there is an English version that's 7 minutes and 48 seconds long, and there's a Spanish version that's 9 minutes and 53 seconds long. So go to that, whichever you prefer, watch the video, and we will come back and talk about it in 10 minutes, all right? So I'm going to give you a chance to do that right starting now. Go for it.
Well, thank you all so much for watching that video. I certainly enjoyed it, and I'll put links in a follow-up email in case you didn't have time to watch the whole thing. Thanks, Eric.
Yeah, no problem. So what I've got here is you just saw one of the two videos. I hope you enjoyed them. I just briefly want to touch on sort of reiterate a few things here that hopefully you got out of the video. We've been developing several different tools. You know, we've got this planter up here that I think you saw. And this is a very efficient way for growers, especially if they're doing a lot of acreage, to plant. You can plant, apply the drip tape, and cultivate the furrow all at once. So that's an important tool that I hope people will consider. Also, the recycle strap hoe. This is a really critical one to make sure you clean up the weeds on the edges of those furrows prior to the cover crops, getting very big. And then this last tool is actually not one that was in the video. So this is the first time that I've put this out there publicly, but this is a new mower that we've developed, which works beautifully. And this allows us to trim off the top of the cover crops and keep them under control much more easily. So during the Q&A at the very end, I'll be able to talk about this, some more, but I just wanted to throw these things out there as kind of three important tools. We're developing other ones as well because tools are critical to help this happen. Now, another important thing is just a few tips to help this succeed. Probably one of the most important ones, is to plant early. Tomorrow in our fields at the USDA that we do in collaboration with Roy Fuentes, we will be planting our mustard cover crops in the furrows. So planting early, using drip early is critical, because if you do that, you're going to get a lot of growth early on, and that will set up those root systems in the furrow so that you succeed. Then what's also really critical is to manage the height of the cover crop. And you don't want it to get too tall. So basically what we're trying to do is have it get just a little bit above the top of the bed, but we don't want it to get a lot more than that because we don't want to shade the strawberries and we don't want too much biomass to be produced so that it's a difficult thing to deal with. And then another important critical thing I think with all of this is we haven't figured out all the solutions. We're still working on it. So we're trying to innovate, we're experimenting with other things, and we are sharing it. Okay, so this is important. This is an ongoing progressive process. We're not done yet. You know, I think there's a lot of things that can be gained with this. Probably the most important one really though is, I'm not going to give up on this. I think this is such an important issue from a sustainability standpoint that I really think we need to transition to a different way of growing our strawberries here. So I think it's important that we growers start thinking about this. You know, maybe you don't do it for your whole field. Maybe you just try it out in a little area and learn from that experience. It's an important thing because if you do this, eventually, hopefully you will have fields that will essentially look like this, where these are from our research fields. We've grown our cover crops in the furrows. We've knocked down the residue and we're left with a pretty clean field that we can then harvest our berries with. What you don't want to have happen is something like this other picture here, where cover crops were planted in the furrows, but they were done way too late. They were done without irrigation, with drip tape. And as a result, the field got washed out. So, you know, you can, just because you plant the cover crop there doesn't mean it's going to work. This is what you don't want. That's a big mess. What we're really trying to achieve here is something like this, which is beautiful strawberry production, very little runoff, very little erosion, good weed control, minimal cost, things like this. So that's what we're after. Anyway, so that's kind of all that I really wanted to talk about here before we get to hear from the growers. So I hope you had enjoyed watching those videos, and we'll have more time to dialogue and answer questions and chat about this at the end.